We're talking today about recognizing God's hand in everyday life situations. Trust me, this will change your life. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thoughts? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. So today we're talking about recognizing God's hand in everyday life situations. Now, I am sharing this because I've experienced some amazing things that have changed me in my life. Now, for years and years and years, I was angry. I was frustrated. I was angry at God because I felt so disconnected, with Him, from Him. I felt like my life didn't matter. And my prayers were never getting answered. I was so frustrated about this. And I didn't know what to do about it. And it seemed like the harder I worked at trying to get answers and trying to get connected, the worse it became. And then I discovered this amazing thing that has forever since changed my life. And so I'm here to share that with you. And I hope I can do that with a sense of humility, just that this is amazing, and if you try it out, maybe it can help you. So these are ideas, these are possibilities for you. Okay, so years ago I heard a talk by a guy named Henry Eyring, who talked about keeping a Hand of the Lord journal. And what he would do is at the end of every night, he would think back on the day to see if he had seen God's hand in his life or in the life of his family or those around him. And if he did, he would write it down in just a sentence or two. And he kept a journal like this. And then he gave a promise. And he said, I promise that if you will do this every night consistently, you will start to recognize the hand of God in your life. And pray when you do this. Pray to be shown His hand in your life. Well, at that time, I super needed it because I really felt disconnected. And in feeling disconnected, I felt lost. I felt alone. I felt abandoned from God. I felt angry and frustrated. And so I really needed something to change in my life. And I began doing that. And I got a really nice journal. I went out and bought a leather journal because I thought, this is something that means a lot to me. I'm going to commit to myself that I will not go to bed until I write in this journal, and I'm going to start looking each day for this. Well, I had a rough start, and I found a few times when I recognized God's hand in my life, and a lot of times it came from like a coincidence, this chance accident. And I had been told that accidents or coincidences are God's way of staying anonymous. And so when those would happen, I would write them down. But for the most part, I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. I wasn't seeing God's hand in my life. So whenever I couldn't see His hand in my life, instead what I'd do is I'd read back through previous pages where I had. And then on that day I would write, read today. And there were many weeks where it was just read today, read today, read today, because I didn't see God's hand in my life. But then slowly I began to recognize His hand. I began to see these fortunate things going on in my life. I remember when my father was passing away. He had cancer, and I had all these promptings where I knew he was going to die. And so when it was time for him to be at the hospital, I knew it was his last hours and his last days. And so I spent time there. And the whole time there were these amazing miracles, coincidences, amazing tender mercies of the Lord that happened to me, that happened to my family, and that because I was paying attention to, I saw. Now I had family members who didn't see these, and they didn't know that my dad was going to die. And they were praying for a miracle. And why isn't the miracle happening? Why isn't God saving my dad now? And I saw that there was kind of a disparity there, where they were in despair, they were discouraged, they were distraught because they weren't seeing His hand in all of this. But because I had trained myself, I recognized His hand, God's hand in all of this. And it was a beautiful although sad and heartbreaking experience. But to know that the time was right, to know that my dad had lived a good life and that it was time for him to move on, was so comforting to me to be able to have those experiences. So I share that with you, that if you want to feel better connected to God, if you want to recognize who you are and to feel that connection with Him, that if you start recognizing His hand in your life, in everyday little life situations, your life is really going to be able to change. You're going to be able to feel that your life matters, that your life has meaning, that it has purpose. And you will also, even in the unfortunate things that happen to you, you will recognize that God is pushing you towards something, and that He loves you and that He cares about you. It is so easy when we don't understand God's plan to get angry and frustrated because things aren't turning out the way we wanted to. But when we recognize His hand and His tender mercies and His love and His kindness, even in the hard stuff, it really makes a difference in what we're able to endure. So now my life has been changed. I love to read the Scriptures. I love to see in there how God has dealt with important people like prophets. But you know what means maybe more to me than the Scriptures is these journals that I've kept. I've got 5 of them. And to look back and to see God's dealings with me, that is so powerful. That is so meaningful. And I just wanted to share this plan with you, this idea, this tip, that if you want to be better connected to God, if you want to see His hand in your life, if you want to feel His love in your life, and to maybe you've got bad perceptions about what God's like. I know I did. For many years I thought that, I kind of envisioned Him with this, like the big head of white hair up there in a robe, and He always had a clipboard in His hand. And I don't know why He had a clipboard up there, but He always seemed to be watching me, and He would check off all the things I did wrong. He was just waiting for me to mess up. And I just imagined Him kind of like a lawyer, like, oh, well, that's not going to work. And there was always a Scott Wilhite clause as to why things wouldn't work out. That is the wrong view of God. Even if it was true, it's not a healthy way to live, right? You can change your beliefs. You can change how you feel about things. And if you put in a healthy, constructive belief system, such as God is a loving Father, such as God wants you to succeed, such as God is cheering for you and has His hand in your life and is helping you, even when He gives you challenges, that's a pretty constructive way to live. And if you want to do that, a great way to do it is to keep a journal. So commit to yourself. If you want to try this, and if you want to see it really work, commit to yourself that you will not go to bed tonight until you write a sentence or 2 in your Hand of the Lord journal. Until you look back on your day and say, did I see God's hand in my life? And if so, you write about it. And if you didn't, you review all the times that you did. And all of those times will add up to where you will feel connected. You will feel loved. You will feel valued. And you will feel that you are a child of God. I hope this stirred some questions in your soul. Are you more connected to higher power than you think? Do you have divine DNA? Let's keep asking questions. Click on my face to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.